I discovered an incredible secret in my daughter-in-law's coat that left me shocked and alarmed. The moment Laura unearthed the coat from the depths of her closet, a swell of unease washed over her. The air around her felt charged with hidden stories, buried emotions, and a new weight that sat heavy on her conscience. What was it doing there? The coat was beautiful, vibrant even, a stark contrast to the drab fabrications of her own choice. It belonged to Sara, her son Jake's new wife, this effervescent woman who had swept into their lives with contagious laughter and audacious charm. Yet here she was, holding it in disbelief, inspecting the strange pocket, cold and unyielding. Inside, Laura found crumpled letters and faded photographs, remnants of a life she knew nothing about. Each letter unfurled narratives of struggle. They tore through her heart as she read of Sara's family, burdened by a father's relentless fight against poverty, discrimination that tainted his dreams, and a resilience that had molded Sara into the woman who now occupied her family circle. Laura's fingers trembled as each discovery deepened her turmoil. How could Jake have chosen someone with such fierce shadows looming over her? She glanced at the clock. Family dinner was soon, and the thought of having to mask her unease beneath layers of holiday cheer made her stomach churn. Could she trust Sara? What kind of loyalty resided in a woman whose past was so riddled with pain and hardship? Would her revelation shatter the beautiful illusion of family they had forged? Feeding on doubt, each breath felt labored as she wrestled with her own unexamined prejudices. Images of Sara's lively smile clashed sharply with dark hints of struggle, drawing Laura into deeper internal conflict. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. If she betrayed Sara's past, what did that say about her? Could she truly open her heart to a woman whose life story felt like an unwelcome kick in the gut? The dinner table would be a battleground for unspoken words, festering emotions lurking beneath the merriment. Dread twisted tightly in her chest. How could she blend her thoughts with the laughter that would undoubtedly fill the room? The plates would clatter, but her heart felt poised to explode, just as the family's laughter mingled in the air, promising a warmth that underlined their bonds. Laura felt a sudden unease grip her, tightening like a vice. She was about to shatter the fragile peace that hung so delicately in the room. Could they withstand the truths unearthed in her hands? As she prepared to voice the monstrous doubt roaring inside her, time stretched oddly, suspended in fear, uncertainty, and a desperate call for connection. Would she be able to reach across the divide, or would the unyielding past tear them apart? A choice was upon her, and with it, an insufferable weight of potential failure loomed large before her. The clatter of dishes and the cheerful dialogues of her family filled the room. And yet, to Laura, it felt like echoes bouncing off the walls of her mind. Some surreal theater she wasn't sure she belonged to. Sitting at the table, she watched Sara, the laughter lighting her face as she recounted a humorous story about a failed cake recipe. The way Jake leaned into her, hanging on every word, made Laura acutely aware of the distance growing between her and her son. There was love in their eyes, love that felt like a warm glow she couldn't quite touch. Laura's heart raced as memories of the letters surfaced, each one taunting her with regrets only they could articulate. She had always valued transparency in relationships, the belief that honesty laid the groundwork for trust. Yet, here she was, clutching secrets that could unravel everything. What would it mean to expose the truths hidden in that coat? Would she be the villain in Sara's story? "Mom, you okay?" Jake's voice broke through her haze, concern etching lines on his brow. How could he have picked up on her turmoil? She forced a smile, a mask to shield her from the growing chasm between understanding and acceptance. "Just thinking," she replied, but the words rang hollow even to her own ears. Sara caught her eye, and they shared a fleeting connection, an unspeakable thread tying them both together. Could this be the moment where she decided to lean into understanding instead of suspicion? Laura felt a pull, a determination growing within her. What if she could step into Sara's history and genuinely connect, rather than allow fear to dictate her actions? The choice sparked something new inside her, a determination birthed from vulnerability. But before she could act, the distant chiming of dinner plates clashed with the urgency of her racing thoughts, and she felt the swell inside her beginning to simmer. A naive hope whispered, maybe, just maybe, she was capable of rising above instinctual reflexes. "What are you thinking about?" The question slipped out of Sara's mouth with innocent curiosity, sparking a minor panic that raced through Laura's veins. All eyes turned towards her. The room stilled, the laughter exchanged for an expectant silence, and at that moment, Laura anticipated the twist of fate hanging in the balance. Would she expose her doubts, or continue this charade of ignorance? The weight of her revelation felt heavy and unforgiving, pressing down as Sara awaited her answer. She started, then hesitated, caught in a web of her own making, spinning doubt into an acceptance she couldn't manage. Words felt trapped behind the walls of her throat. She wanted to shout the truth, to bring to light the fear rooted in her own insecurities. But what would that say about her? The sinister threads of discomfort intertwined with her thoughts, and a wave of frustration surged. Why did she feel anger instead of compassion? In that fleeting moment of silence, she recognized that the struggle lay not in Sara's past, but rather in her own fears of inadequacy and expectation. Could she shed that weight, embrace her discomfort, and empathize with Sara's journey? It was a possibility that unnerved her. As the meal progressed, laughter returned. But with it, an internal fight began to brew. A new resolve ignited, and Laura felt herself at a crossroads. She was not just on the verge of confronting a daughter-in-law's past. She was about to embark on a journey that could redefine her own existence. The truth lingered near, demanding respect, but also begging for acceptance. Would she confront the buried resentments and step toward understanding? Or would she retreat into the safety of silence once more? The next few moments would alter the tapestry of their lives, threading fear and bravery into a single fabric, woven from acceptance. Laura closed her eyes as she prepared to take a breath, an unseen hand reaching out to gather her courage. The dinner was merely a beginning. What awaited her now was a more formidable confrontation. Her own willingness to face not just Sara, but the shadows that lurked deep within herself. The moment held an electric tension as Laura's mind raced, and the food on her plate became an afterthought. She studied Sara's expression, the innocent curiosity mixed with concern, and wondered if her daughter-in-law sensed the internal storm. There was a fragile line between her feelings and the realities of the situation that seemed to stretch like a tightrope beneath her. Laura took a deep breath, seeking grounding in the familiarity of the warm kitchen. The steam rising from the dishes seemed to hover as thick as the unspoken truths in the air. What if she could seize this moment and pivot toward a conversation steeped not in suspicion, but in understanding? But the fear gnawed at her. What if she opened that door only to find herself facing a truth she wasn't ready to accept? The letters were a stark reminder of painful shadows lingering in the corners of her thoughts, threatening to spill over. Anger lurked beneath her desire for connection, simmering with resentment she had yet to fully acknowledge. "Mom?" Jake's voice cut through her spiral, and she managed a strained smile. But as she looked into his earnest gaze, she felt a deepening pang of sadness. the realization that her struggle was not just hers alone. Jake deserved a mother who could offer insight, support, and love without the weight of concealed doubt. It was time for her to illuminate the darkness that shrouded her heart. Laura felt it stir, a nascent resolve to step away from her fears. "Actually, I have something I need to say," Laura finally ventured, her voice trembling with uncertainty, yet carrying the weight of certainty. The room became a crucible of attention, the laughter fading as all eyes focused on her. "I've been holding on to some things that have made it hard for me to really connect with you, Sara." The flush of vulnerability spread across her cheeks. She watched as Sara's eyes widened, intrigued yet cautious, a reflection of Laura's own conflict. "You don't have to explain yourself, really," Sara offered gently. But Laura shook her head, the resolve deepening within her. "No, I owe it to you. To Jake." There was something freeing about saying those words, a shard of light piercing the thick fog of her internal battle. "I've been afraid of my judgments, afraid of losing connections. I thought I was protecting myself, but maybe I've just been building walls." A soft silence enveloped them, and Laura could feel the tension shift. It was as if the act of speaking her truth sent ripples throughout the room, unearthing a shared vulnerability that echoed back to her. She noticed Jake's eyes reflecting a mixture of hope and concern, and she braced herself against that weight. Sara leaned in, her expression softening, as if acknowledging the shared burden that Laura had carried in silence. "You're not alone in this, you know," Sara said carefully. "I've struggled with my own secrets too." That revelation landed with a profound impact, and for the first time, Laura felt like the strands of their lives were woven together by more than just circumstance. There was a kinship in their fears, a capacity for understanding that could bridge their differences. As the conversation unfolded, Laura began to grasp the beauty of their intricacies, unearthing hints of a hidden strength she never realized she possessed. Empathy welled within, sweeping away the constrictive doubts that had clouded her vision for so long. But just as an openness began to flourish, the atmosphere shifted again, prickling with unspoken fears. The kettle on the stove started to whistle, a sharp reminder that they were still standing on the precipice. A flicker of resistance within her surged. Could she dare delve deeper into the layers of Sara's past, even if it meant touching upon secrets she had only glimpsed through the letters? What kind of secrets? Laura found herself asking, the question spilling out more forcefully than anticipated. The weight of it settled heavily between them, and she felt a mix of anticipation and dread grip her with equal force. The conversation needed to evolve. They were skimming the surface, but what would it cost her to truly confront the depths of Sara's story? As the impending honesty loomed over them, Laura could feel her heart racing with both caution and excitement. This was no longer solely a confrontation. It was a commitment to forging a new narrative built on trust, honesty, and shared vulnerabilities. But the truth they might expose could change everything. Could she really handle what lay beneath the surface? The question hung in the air, an invisible thread linking Laura to a moment of profound vulnerability. As Sara's hesitation lingered, Laura's heart thudded in her chest, each beat punctuating the silence that enveloped them. Would knowledge break down the walls, or would it deepen the chasm between them? Sara exhaled softly, eyes darting as if weighing the gravity of her response. "I guess there are parts of my past that I've locked away, parts I thought I could leave behind." Her voice trembled slightly, and Laura felt a twist of empathy. They were not so different after all. Both were burdened by shadows that threatened to eclipse their present. "Maybe I should start from the beginning," Sara offered, uncertain yet resolute. The words were laced with a hint of courage, and Laura was struck by the realization that the evening might pivot on this moment, a mutual unveiling rather than a mere exchange of words. It was a catalyst for a more profound understanding. As Sara began to share her story, Laura leaned in, listening intently. It was a tale laced with heartbreak, moments of joyous triumph twisted into desperate choices. She spoke of a past life marred by mistakes, the weight of family expectations pressing down like a heavy blanket. The words poured out, revealing layers that had previously been hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy. Laura's initial instinctive response was protective. The urge to shield herself from potential discomfort ached within her. But with Sara's revelations came a sharp realization. A profound connection was starting to take root. With each courageous word, she felt her own defenses wavering. It struck her that Sara's truths were not solely her own. They were threads in a shared tapestry of resilience and growth. Laura sensed that confronting these secrets could form an unbreakable bond, but the fear of unearthing buried emotions clawed at her insides. What would her acceptance entail? Laura swallowed hard, her mind a whirlpool of contemplation. Instead of dissociation, there was a burgeoning awareness of her own unresolved tensions, memories she had repressed under layers of guilt and shame. As Sara concluded, offering her heart to Laura without pretense, the change in atmosphere felt palpable. They were both exposed now, stripped of their previous facades. Laura had voiced her vulnerability, and in return, Sara had gifted her a glimpse into the messy beauty of imperfection. "Thank you for trusting me," Laura finally managed, her own voice softly breaking. "I don't have all the answers, but I want to support you, just like you're supporting me." The warmth of sincerity crossed the threshold of trepidation. And just like that, they had forged a fragile but crucial bridge. But now, standing on the precipice of mutual honesty, a question loomed larger than the revelations shared. How far did each of them dare to go into the depths of the other's history? As they each grappled with their internal storms, a sudden text buzzed on Laura's phone, slicing through the charged moment. With her heart racing, she pulled the phone from her pocket, her stomach sinking as she read the name of the sender. The notification was from a long-forgotten part of her life, an entity she thought she had buried. The uncertainty seeped into the contours of her thoughts. Was this a sign? Should she dive back into that shadowed past while attempting to explore the intricate layers of Sara's narrative? She bit her lip, torn between two paths, the one leading to previously uncharted territories of understanding, and the one veering into the unexplored chaos of her own history. As she glanced up, the weight of the moment pressing around them, Laura realized that each step they took could unearth not only the hidden corners of Sara's struggles, but also her own elusive identity. What untold stories awaited her in this unforeseen intersection? What could this message mean for the journey they were collectively embarking on? With the precipice behind them and uncertainty before them, Laura felt a shift in the air, like impending rain before a storm. The resolve to face this new twist solidified in her, but it coincided with trepidation. She met Sara's gaze again, this time steadier. "Let's keep unraveling the truth," she said, committing to whatever surfaced, for better or worse. But as they took that first step into deeper waters, Laura couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the brink of uncovering something monumental, both about Sara and about herself. Would the threads of their secrets weave them closer, or would the consequences tear them apart? The air crackled with anticipation as Laura poised her finger over the text message on her phone. The name illuminated the screen, triggering a cascade of memories she thought long buried. For a moment she hesitated, caught between the weight of Sara's revelations and the tempting pull of an unresolved chapter destined to collide with her present. "Are you okay?" Sara's voice sliced through her thoughts, shimmering with concern. Laura's discomfort morphed into a choice. She drew a deep breath, trying to anchor herself amidst the swirling chaos of emotions. "Just a message from someone I haven't spoken to in a while," Laura murmured, forcing a smile that barely touched her eyes. The urgency of the situation knotted her stomach. Should she share this complication with Sara, or would doing so complicate their fragile connection? The uncertainty was suffocating, yet beneath it, a flicker of determination ignited within her. This could either be a derailment or an opportunity. She wasn't the same person who had once relied on a clean break from her past. Perhaps it was time to confront what she'd evaded for too long. That thought alone buoyed her. She turned her gaze to Sara, feeling the unfamiliar power of shared burdens. "Let's tackle everything head-on," she said, the steel in her voice surprising even herself. "I think it's important that I don't close off this door. We're diving deep into your history. Maybe it's time I wade into mine." Sara regarded her, a hint of relief mingling with intrigue. "I'm with you. If we're going to do this, let's do it together." The unanticipated acceptance fortified Laura's resolve. Text or no text, she was ready. Directed by an internal compass urging honesty, she recounted the elements of her past that had lingered like shadows. A torn relationship with a sibling, the grief that had ensued, and the enduring questions that had haunted her since. Each word extracted a layer of heaviness, and, remarkably, the act of disclosing her experiences transformed confusion into liberation. Sara listened with empathy, but it was the familiar dance of vulnerability that astonished Laura as she absorbed her own truths. "I thought moving forward meant leaving it all behind. But—" She paused, reflecting on the implications of her revelations. "Confronting these things might actually help me unravel something I thought I'd already dealt with." The moment felt like an invocation, a call to unearth deeper wisdom. She could perceive the connection growing between them, dynamics shifting with every confession. Laura's concerns of judgment and misunderstanding faded, leaving only the rawness of life's experiences to connect them. "They say healing begins when you face what you've buried," Sara noted, and her steady presence was bolstering Laura more than she realized. What if our disclosures didn't just cleave through shadows, but illuminated paths we hadn't even considered? "Real connections begin when we stop pretending," Laura replied, her voice a mixture of fervor and clarity. "Perhaps we both need that light. This might be painful, but if it means we can grow, then let's continue." As they settled into the rhythm of shared truths, Laura returned her focus to the text message. Its gravity felt undeniable. Maybe the past she hesitated to reckon with was a necessary step in forging a starker contrast with the life she was building alongside Sara. Still, the looming question of who had sent the message remained. That name wasn't just a ghost. It embodied decisions that had led her to where she was now. "Are we ready to push forward?" she asked, her heart pounding. "Can we face the truth together?" They exchanged a resolute glance, the bond fortified by honesty, and the tangible excitement of the uncertainty lying ahead. What awaited them on the other side of this exploration? Laura's phone buzzed once more with a persistent insistence, an echo of unresolved chapters ready to spill over. As she reached for it, she felt the simultaneous thrill and dread, typical of embarking into the unknown. Would the sender's next message yield answers, or further complicate the threads weaving their burgeoning friendship? Still, there was no turning back now. She was ready to dive in. Laura's fingers hovered above the screen, an electric convergence of anxiety and curiosity. As she swiped to open the message, her mind ran wild with echoes of the past. Faces and memories clamored for attention, and she steadied her breath, determined to meet this uncertainty head-on. "Laura?" Sara's soft voice snapped her back, grounding her as they sat on the couch, the afternoon light casting soft patterns around them. "Do you want to talk about it?" Instead of answering, Laura took a moment, knowing this crossroads would shape their journey. "Yeah," she finally said, directing her gaze at Sara, who was watching intently. It was as if Laura could see the question marks floating above her friend's head, the same deep desire for understanding mirrored in Sara's bright eyes. With clarity surprising herself, Laura chose to share the fear that wrapped around her heart. This person. They knew me when I felt the most lost. He was someone who saw me as I truly was, filled with insecurities and all. The words felt heavy, and an unexpected flood of vulnerability surged through. She wanted to articulate her heart's truth without flinching, yet still her voice trembled just slightly. "Do you think hearing from him could bring up old issues?" Sara asked gently. "It's hard to say. I've avoided those thoughts, thinking it was better that way." Laura gathered her thoughts, trying to piece together the messy puzzle of her emotions. "But now I wonder if avoidance has been a disservice to me. Maybe it's what's been holding me back from fully embracing my future, including this connection with you." The weight of her admission hung thick in the air. With each heartbeat, recognition settled in. She was awakening to the reality that her past indeed shaped her present. Avoiding that dialogue with herself had stunted her growth. Confronting this might feel like walking on a tightrope, she mused, glancing down at her phone again, the message standing sentry as a tempting distraction. But perhaps it's time to risk the fall to see what's on the other side. You have every right to explore how you feel, Sara affirmed, her tone encouraging but firm. What would risk look like to you in this situation? Laura considered the question, the lump forming in her throat giving way to newfound resolve. I could respond. I could ask him why now. What's his purpose? I owe it to myself not just to be haunted by the past, but to invite dialogue. The thought felt liberating, a small victory for her spirit. Exactly. By doing that, you're taking control, Sara said, her voice brightening, sensing Laura's shifting tide. What better way to step into your growth than addressing your past? You're giving yourself space to heal. Laura nodded, feeling a swell of gratitude towards Sara for bolstering her courage. There was strength to be found in shared vulnerabilities. Perhaps she had been unknowingly craving this bond more than she realized. As she navigated her internal ship, tentative but no longer adrift, she realized she was not merely responding to a text, but firmly anchoring herself in authenticity. She engaged with her phone again, fingers poised, inspiration propelling her forward. In a series of calculated keystrokes, she expressed herself simply yet profoundly, laying bare her questions, her desires for clarity, and her justified apprehension. Done, she declared, releasing a breath she didn't realize she was holding. The weight of it reverberated through the space between them, a palpable shift marking new ground. She wasn't just speaking to an echo of the past. She was stepping into her own narrative, reclaiming her voice. Before Sara could respond, just as Laura felt the surge of pride at her decision, her phone vibrated sharply. An incoming message. This time not just a faint whisper from the past, but an immediate and undeniable call for attention. Heart racing, she exchanged a look with Sara, who braced herself beside Laura. The question loomed larger than before. Would this message bring clarity or unleash further tension? Laura, are you ready for whatever comes next? Sara asked, her gaze searching. Deep down, Laura knew the stakes had just risen. The time had come to face her past. The screen illuminated Laura's face. The message glared back at her, pulling her closer into that vortex of doubt and dread she had resolved to confront. Just below her surface of determination roiled a familiar anxiety, urging her to shut down, to retreat once more into silence. Yet the gusts of change pushed against her, buoyant and demanding. Sara leaned in, her brows furrowing slightly, an unspoken clarity reflected in her expression. What does it say? She urged quietly, her voice a soothing balm against the tumult inside Laura. A flicker of hesitation gripped Laura, the memory of past conversations with this person flooding her mind. Every word felt like a potential stone thrown into the pond of her present, rippling and distorting the surface. But she inhaled deeply, grounding herself in the truth that faced her. She was no longer the person she once was. With a deliberate motion, she opened the message, her heart hammering like a caged bird. The words unfurled before her, intimate yet alien, beckoning her to listen closely. "Hey, Laura. I've thought about reaching out for a long time. There's so much to explain. Can we talk?" Her stomach flipped, the urge to retreat surging once more. Why now? What had compelled him after all this time? Each question roared loudly, challenging the tranquility she had been cultivating. But another realization settled heavily atop the chaos. She didn't have to react blindly. This was her narrative, her choice. In the pause that ensued, Laura allowed herself a moment to contemplate the question Sara had posed earlier. What did risk look like now? It was different this time. It wasn't simply the act of responding. It was about what that response could lead to, how it could either tether her to her past or liberate her for the future. "I think I want to reply," she finally said, turning towards Sara, determination flickering behind her eyes. "But I'll do it on my own terms. I can ask him what he wants, but I'll set clear boundaries." Her voice grew steadier with each word. This was a turning point, and she was ready to guide it. "That sounds like a solid approach," Sara encouraged, pride filling her tone. The warmth of Sara's affirmation enveloped Laura as she considered her next steps. What boundaries would she set? How could she articulate her feelings without being overwhelmed by old emotions? Laura could feel a surge of self-awareness. She had grown considerably, but questions remained. How deep was her growth, and how ready was she to embrace a connection that had once brought her turmoil? Spurred by her internal reckoning, she began to compose her response, focusing on precision and honesty while leaving room for possibility. As she typed, each word felt deliberate, empowering. She was reclaiming her narrative. "I appreciate you reaching out after all this time. I want to understand your intentions. Can we discuss this and share where we stand?" Sending the reply felt monumental, a thread woven into the fabric of her evolving identity. The air seemed to shift around her, and when she glanced up, she found Sara beaming with encouragement. The seconds stretched like minutes as they both awaited a response. A quiet buzz broke the silence as her phone stirred again. The instant realization froze the moment. This wasn't just a notification. It was an invitation to confront the shadows that had lingered far too long. "Laura, are you sure you're ready?" Sara's cautious words underscored the tension rising anew, the stakes undeniably higher now. With a profound mix of fear and anticipation, Laura nodded, a silent vow reflecting in her eyes. She would not flinch. She would not back down. Whatever awaited her in this exchange would illuminate the depths of her past and inform her journey forward. Drawing in a deep breath, she swiped to read the incoming message. Would it unravel truths best left buried, or reveal potential paths she had yet to imagine? The moment was hers, and she was prepared to embrace the unknown. As she read the reply on her screen, the air around Laura thickened, absorbing the weight of its implications. "I appreciate you wanting to talk. There's a lot I need to explain. Can we meet?" The simplicity of the request contrasted sharply with the complexity of her feelings. Each syllable echoed in her mind, pulling her deeper into a labyrinth of uncertainty. Would she find closure, or merely refresh old wounds? Gazing up, she saw Sara's expression shift to one of concern. "How do you feel about meeting?" Her voice was a gentle reminder of the gravity of the situation. Laura's pulse quickened as she wrestled with the question. Meeting could mean confrontation. A direct clash with memories she had diligently catalogued and compartmentalized. It could also signify liberation, a chance to redefine the narrative presented to her over the years. Swallowing hard, she began to pace, her thoughts swirling like leaves caught in an autumn wind. Part of her longed for resolution, an end to unanswered questions. Yet another voice whispered caution. What if this meeting unraveled her? What if the past shadows rose again to cloud the progress she had fought so hard to achieve? "Laura, just breathe," Sara urged, sensing her distress. "You don't have to decide anything right now. Take a moment." Grateful for her friend's steady presence, Laura closed her eyes, focusing on her breath. As she inhaled deeply, a thought crystallized. She would meet, but only under her stipulations. It was critical that she manage the boundaries she had just begun to establish for herself. "I think," she began, her voice quiet, yet resolute. "I think I need to reply with a condition. I want to meet in a public place, somewhere neutral." This assertion was empowering, the first step in reclaiming her agency. "Sounds reasonable," Sara nodded, the hint of a smile spreading across her face. "What else? I want to limit the time to just an hour to start." With every limit she set, Laura felt more anchored, as if she were constructing a bridge across turbulent waters rather than plummeting into them. "Those boundaries sound healthy, Laura. Don't forget, this is about your comfort, not his." Encouraged, Laura began crafting her response. "Let's meet at the cafe downtown on Saturday. I'd prefer if we kept it to an hour," she typed, reflecting on how instinctively she relied on time restrictions to feel secure. She sent the message, the act both thrilling and terrifying. As the hours trickled by, anticipation gripped her, mingling with fear. She began questioning every aspect of her choice. Was she foolish to reopen old wounds? Could healing truly coexist with this newfound curiosity? In the silence of her apartment, Laura contemplated her journey thus far. She recalled how she had spent years suppressing emotions, stifling her true self. Now she had a chance to confront her past head-on, but only if she remained true to herself. There was still a piece of her that felt unprepared, but the growth she had experienced promised a glimmer of hope. With the evening drawing to a close, her phone buzzed once more. Another message blinked at her invitingly. This time it was confirmation from him, affirming their meeting. She felt an exhilaration mingle with anxiety, a recognition of the impending confrontation with her former self. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows into her room, she wrestled with a profound realization. Confronting the past did not mean forfeiting her present. It armed her with perspective, reshaping her strength. Whatever lay ahead, she would meet it with clarity and intention. But deep down, unease lurked as well. What if he had changed in ways she couldn't anticipate? Or worse, what if she discovered things she wasn't ready to accept? The flicker of uncertainty remained a companion as she approached the threshold of her next chapter, one filled with potential yet shrouded in ambiguity. As she prepared for Saturday, a new thought emerged. The meeting wasn't just about him. It was about reclaiming every aspect of herself. She would approach it like a professional undertaking. No excess baggage, just purpose. The clock ticking steadily, Laura realized that Saturday wasn't merely a rendezvous. It was a reckoning. Would this encounter shake her foundation or solidify her growth? The answer lay waiting just beyond her reach, tantalizingly close, yet perilously undefined. The day loomed ahead like an impending storm, gray clouds heavy with promise and consequence. Laura woke before dawn, her mind racing through the possible scenarios that awaited her. Each tick of the clock sent a tremor of anticipation skittering along her spine. Would he still recognize her? Would he still hold the power to unsettle her? She pushed herself through her morning routine, each task done on autopilot. Yet, every brushstroke of her hair and splash of water on her face served as a reminder of the transformation within her. One she was eager to showcase and simultaneously terrified to divulge. As the morning melted into early afternoon, she put on a fitted blouse and jeans, opting for an appearance that straddled confidence and casualness. In the mirror, the woman staring back echoed a sense of determination that had felt elusive not long ago. She practiced her breathing, releasing any tension that might have latched onto her shoulders. Despite the outward calm, her inner dialogue churned. What if he laid bare truths she wasn't prepared to hear? Just as quickly, she reminded herself that this was her moment. She had set the stage, defined her parameters, and now she would act. Their conversation might serve as a pivotal point, not just in relation to him, but in her ongoing journey of self-discovery. When the clock finally chimed 2, she grabbed her coat and made her way to the cafe with Sara at her side. Each step felt infused with both trepidation and anticipation. She unconsciously traced her fingertips along the fabric of her coat, grounding herself amidst the scene before her. As they approached the cafe, Laura's heart raced. The cafe, once a mere backdrop to everyday life, loomed larger as a crucible for her past. She entered with confidence, even though her insides writhed like a typhoon. It was now or never. When she spotted him seated at a corner table, she felt her resolve slip slightly. He looked older, perhaps, but some parts of him remained the same. The same confident posture, the same careful way he held his coffee cup. The years had left marks, both on his face and in his eyes. They had also left indelible scars on her soul, and she was uncertain if they could find common ground. With a polite nod, she approached, and he stood to greet her. Their handshake was firm, yet read like a nostalgia-laden letter, filled with unspoken emotions. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice smooth but tinged with something unreadable. She took her seat, acutely aware of the clock on the wall ticking down her hour limit. The conversation began tentatively, with small talk about the café ambiance and surface-level exchanges. Beneath the trivialities, her mind raced. What should come next? What questions did she need to ask? As a few minutes passed, she internally weighed her thoughts before finally diving deeper. "Why did you reach out now? After all this time?" Her straightforwardness caught him off guard, and for a heartbeat, the air between them hung heavy with expectation. He hesitated, eyes shifting as if searching for the right words. Or maybe the right excuse. It felt like opening a floodgate. She could sense his turmoil, mirroring her own. "I've done a lot of thinking," he finally replied, the words pouring out as if they'd been trapped for years. "There are things I need to explain. Things I didn't say then. I want you to know what really happened." As his story began to unfold, Laura found herself bracing against the rising tide of emotions and revelations. Each word he spoke seemed to unravel layers of her past that she had meticulously sealed shut. Yet beneath the swirling confusion, a narrow thread of clarity emerged. This confrontation wasn't merely about him explaining himself. It was also a crucial segment of her narrative, one that could redefine the story of who she had become. Time slipped away, and as she confronted uncomfortable truths and recalled her own narratives, she sensed a dawning realization. The hour was nearly up, yet she was no longer certain she wanted to stop. Would facing this storm solidify her growth, or would it plunge her back into the shadows? The question lingered in the depths of her mind as she pried deeper into his revelations. If the truth could fracture her newfound grounds, she needed to know sooner rather than later. Just as she prepared to ask her next question, his phone chimed, drawing his attention. "I'm sorry, I need to check this," he murmured, an anxious frown appearing on his face. She watched him, the anticipation buzzing like static in the air. Would his next statement bring clarity or confusion? As he began to respond to the message, Laura couldn't shake the feeling that a critical turning point was ahead, one that could change everything she thought she knew about their past, and perhaps about herself. The ringing of his phone sliced through the atmosphere, gouging out the weight of shared truths and replacing it with growing tension. Laura watched him glance at the screen, the flickering light casting shadows across his face, shifting from introspection to urgency. "Sorry, it's work," he murmured, a hesitant smile, trying to mask the frustration rippling beneath. But Laura stared at him with something akin to desperation. This conversation had come to mean so much, its importance eclipsing the years of silence that stretched between them. Yet, here he was, pulling away at the very moment she needed him to lean in. Her heart quickened as he tapped away at the screen, his eyes focused and darting. The chilling thought crept in. What if this moment was slipping away, drawn by an external force, just like their past had? What if he hadn't changed at all? "Can we just put that aside for a moment?" she offered, resolve tightening her vocal cords. She needed him. This was her moment, not just some duty amid the buzz of notifications. Yes, of course," he stammered, his eyes flickering back to her with an undercurrent of remorse. As he stowed his phone away, Laura watched emotions flicker. Regret, embarrassment, concern, like a film reel of the past reeling through her mind. She took a deep breath, reminded herself of her purpose. "Look, we've both been avoiding what happened. I want to know why you left so suddenly. I need to hear it from you." The room felt thick with unspoken truths, tangling the air as he pressed his lips together, weighing his thoughts. "I never intended to hurt you," he finally said, his voice heavy with a mix of shame and vulnerability. "Things felt chaotic back then. My family, they were falling apart. I was drowning under expectations, and when I left, I thought I was doing the right thing, for both of us." As he spoke, Laura's heart descended into the now familiar place of uncertainty. His words resonated against a backdrop she thought she'd perfected. His chaos had resonated with her childhood, those same feelings of inadequacy and the pressure of being perfect. "I didn't know how to address my troubles, much less yours." He leaned closer, as if daring to connect despite the barriers that had formed. "I should have fought harder for what we had." Those words struck a chord, echoing in the chambers of her heart. Was this the truth she'd longed for? Or was it merely surface-level sentiment that skirted the real issues? She leaned forward, compelled to grasp the thread tightening between them. "But you left," she pressed gently. "You abandoned me without a word. I had to fend for myself in a world filled with unanswered questions. What do I do with that?" His expression grew somber. She could see the reflection of her anguish mirrored in his features, and suddenly, the years of silence seemed insubstantial. They were, at their core, two people entangled in their respective histories, desperately seeking a way back to each other. "I thought I was protecting you from my mess. But in fact, I just created more chaos," he admitted, his voice raw with emotion. "All I can ask for now is your forgiveness, if you can find it in you." There it was, the crux of their conversation. Forgiveness. The salient point of her growth lay within his humbled request, yet her heart wrestled with a multitude of feelings. "Forgiveness is complicated," she said, considering her own tempest of emotions. "We've both carried burdens, unjust in pursuit of self-preservation. But it's not just about saying the word. It's about understanding the impact." A flicker of hope ignited in his eyes, as if recognizing her forthrightness as a bridge rather than a wall. "I want to understand," he replied, vulnerability mingling with desperation. "I want to confront whatever pain I've caused." In that moment, Laura realized they were standing on the edge of a momentous occasion. Not just for one another, but for their paths moving forward. This was not merely an encounter, it was an opportunity for rebirth, The revelation brought clarity, dissolving her apprehensions in its wake. "Then let's both promise to be honest from here forward," she stated, the sincerity in her tone layering urgency and commitment. "Agreed." He nodded, the resolve returning to his demeanor. "I don't want to hide anymore. But it has to be mutual, Laura. We have to face our shadows together." As they delved deeper into their shared narratives, the walls that had stood rigid for years began to tremble. Each revelation peeled away layers of pain, and haunting memories gave way to a cascade of newfound understanding. Time seemed to dissolve as they unearthed shadows, and an hour felt fleeting, yet extraordinarily fruitful. She found herself looking into his eyes, seeing glimmers of a kindred spirit she once cherished. A person who, like her, had fought against shadows of their own making. Eventually, as the cafe bustled with energy around them, the clock struck 1 hour. Yet they both lingered, fueled by an urgency to uncover more. "I don't want this to end," Laura whispered, scarcely believing her own yearning. Her heart felt freed in an unexpected way. "Then let's not make it an ending," he replied softly, the warmth of his agreement radiating through her. "Let's plan to meet again. We can dig even deeper." Laura's heart swelled as she considered this new alchemy of possibility. It was no longer just about her past. It was about stepping into a future where their stories intertwined once again, each step taken fortified by commitment and honesty. As they exchanged numbers and scheduled their next meeting, the weight that once threatened to pin her down began to dissipate. Laura rose, empowered to confront shadows, not just of her past, but the blossoming bond she was forging. Walking out together, she felt the air shift. The storm that had loomed before now felt like a gentle breeze, invigorating and potent. With each step forward, there was a renewed sense of purpose grounded in authenticity. Each moment unfolded deliciously into promise, and she felt solidifying confidence march forth. "Just think of how far we've come today," she said, a determined light gleaming in her heart. "We're just at the beginning." He smiled, the kindling hope igniting the space between them. And with that, Laura knew she had embarked on a transformative journey, not just through the past, but into the vibrant synthesis of her future. Together they delve into each other's stories, bending but never breaking, exploring the depths of understanding instead of merely skimming the surface of their past grievances. It was precisely what she desired, to become the author of her narrative, all while weaving in a new chapter, colored by authentic connection and teamwork against their individual shadows. The weight of tomorrow felt lighter as they walked into the daylight, ready to uncover what lay ahead with resilience. In that moment, everything shifted, carving a path towards personal growth and fulfillment that would guide them through the unpredictable seas of life. As the cafe faded from view, so did the lingering uncertainties. When it came to love, understanding and healing, Laura realized she was more capable than she'd ever imagined. With that newfound clarity and a silent promise to herself for the journey ahead, she was ready for anything. Now, if you want to witness more transformative stories like Laura's, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now, to feed the algorithm so others can experience this journey. Comment below your reactions and your theories about Laura's incredible adventure. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.